Overthinking is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. The longer you wait, the more you convince yourself that action is risky, that you're not ready, that maybe, just maybe, tomorrow will be a better time to start. But here's the truth. Overthinking is just fear in disguise. And the only way to defeat fear is with action. So how do we break free? We often believe that we need to have everything figured out before we start. That we need the perfect plan, the perfect conditions, and the perfect level of confidence before we take action. But this mindset is what keeps so many people stuck. The pursuit of perfection becomes a never-ending loop of hesitation, self-doubt, and inaction. The truth is, perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist. No matter how much we prepare, there will always be unknowns, obstacles, and unexpected challenges. The people who move forward in life aren't the ones who have the perfect plan. They're the ones who are willing to start without one. Clarity is what truly matters, and clarity comes from action, not from endless thinking. When we get stuck in overthinking, we convince ourselves that we need more time, more research, more preparation, but what we're really doing is delaying. We hesitate because we're afraid of making mistakes. We fear looking foolish. We fear failing. But in that hesitation, we lose valuable time. Time that could have been spent learning, growing, and making progress. Consider how we learn anything in life. A child doesn't wait until they understand the mechanics of walking before they take their first step. They simply try, fall, and adjust. Though they don't overanalyze, they just do. And through doing, they learn. Yet as we grow older, we start believing that we need all the answers before we even begin. But the reality is, we only gain clarity by stepping forward, experimenting, and adjusting along the way. Think about the most successful people in the world. Did they start with perfect plans? No. They started with an idea, took action, and figured things out as they went. They didn't sit around waiting for the perfect conditions because they knew those conditions would never come. What separated them from everyone else was their willingness to take imperfect action. Clarity is far more valuable than perfection because clarity leads to momentum, and momentum leads to results. The more we do, the more we learn. The more we learn, the better decisions we make. But we can't gain that insight by standing still. Many people sit on ideas for years waiting for the right moment to start, but the right moment is a myth. The right moment is whenever you decide to begin. The only way to truly know if something will work is to test it in the real world. No amount of thinking, analyzing, or planning can replace the experience of taking action. Does this mean we should be reckless? Of course not. It means we should prioritize movement over hesitation. It means we should stop waiting for everything to be perfect before we take the first step. It means we should embrace uncertainty and trust that we will figure things out along the way. There will always be room for improvement. There will always be things you wish you had known earlier. But none of that should stop you from starting today, because what you learn from doing will be far more valuable than what you learn from overthinking. So stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop trying to be perfect. Instead, focus on what you do know, focus on what you can control, and then take action. Because in the end, perfection isn't what moves us forward, clarity is. Confidence is not something we are born with, it is something we build. Yet, so many people sit and wait hoping confidence will magically appear before they take action. They believe that if they just think long enough, if they prepare hard enough, they will suddenly feel ready. But that's not how confidence works. Confidence doesn't come from thinking, it comes from doing. Think about a time when you were afraid to try something new. Maybe it was speaking in public, learning a new skill, or taking on a challenge that seemed too big. In that moment, you probably felt uncertain, maybe even paralyzed by self-doubt. But what happened when you actually took the first step? The fear didn't disappear instantly, but with each action, it began to fade. You started realizing that you were capable, that you could handle more than you thought. That's how confidence is built, not through thinking, but through experience. The biggest mistake people make is believing they need confidence before they take action. They wait until they feel ready, but that moment never comes. Readiness is a byproduct of action. The more we do something, the more comfortable we become with it. The more we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, the stronger we become. It is only through action that we prove to ourselves what we are capable of. Consider a beginner learning to ride a bike. They don't start out feeling confident. They wobble, they fall, they get frustrated, but they keep trying. Each attempt, no matter how small, teaches them something. They adjust, they improve, and over time they gain confidence, not because they sat and thought about riding a bike, but because they actually did it. The same applies to everything in life. The first time you do something, it will feel uncomfortable, it will feel awkward. You will probably make mistakes, but every mistake is just part of the process. It is through those mistakes that we grow. Confidence isn't built by avoiding failure, it's built by learning from it. Think about the people you admire. Those who seem confident in what they do, they weren't always that way. They had moments of doubt just like you. The difference is that they took action despite the fear. They didn't let uncertainty stop them. They stepped forward even when they didn't feel ready. And through action, they gained the confidence that others now see in them. There is a simple formula for building confidence. Take action, learn from the experience, and adjust. That's it. Every time you step outside your comfort zone, you grow. Every time you push through fear, you become stronger. Confidence is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. But if you wait, if you let fear and overthinking keep you stuck, you will never develop the confidence you need. You will stay in the same place, wondering what could have been, wishing you had started sooner. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for confidence to magically appear. Instead, take action. Even if it's a small step, take it. Even if it's uncomfortable, do it. Because confidence isn't something you find, it's something you create. And the only way to create it is by doing. Failure is one of the biggest fears that hold people back. We grow up believing that failure is something to be avoided, something that defines our limits. But that belief is what keeps so many people stuck. They hesitate, they overthink, and they never take the risks necessary to grow. The truth is, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a necessary step toward it. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones who never failed. They're the ones who learned how to use failure as feedback. Think about a scientist running an experiment. If the results don't turn out as expected, do they see it as a failure? No. They see it as data, information they can use to adjust, refine, and try again. That's exactly how we should approach life. Every mistake, every setback, every so-called failure is simply feedback. It's information telling us what works, what doesn't, and what we need to improve. When we shift our mindset from fearing failure to learning from it, we take away its power. Suddenly, mistakes aren't roadblocks, they're stepping stones. Every time something doesn't go as planned, we gain valuable insight. Maybe we need a new approach. Maybe we need to develop a skill we hadn't considered. Maybe we simply need to keep going. But we wouldn't know any of this if we never took action in the first place. Consider some of the most successful people in history. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. When asked about it, he didn't say he had failed. He said he had found thousands of ways that didn't work. That's the mindset that separates those who grow from those who give up. Too often, we let failure define us. We take one bad outcome and turn it into a belief about ourselves. I failed, so I must not be good enough. I made a mistake, so maybe I'm not meant for this. But failure is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of your process. And a process can always be improved. The most dangerous thing about fearing failure is that it keeps us from trying at all. We avoid taking risks, stepping outside our comfort zones, or pursuing the things we truly want. But if we never try, we never learn. If we never learn, we never grow. And if we never grow, we stay exactly where we are. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what will I learn? Instead of saying, I'm not good at this, say, I'm not good at this yet. This simple shift in perspective changes everything. It turns failure into a teacher instead of an enemy. Every time something doesn't go as planned, stop and ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I use this to get better? The answers to those questions will push you forward. You will fail. There's no avoiding it. But the question isn't whether or not you will fail. The question is how you will respond to it. Will you let it stop you, or will you use it to grow? Because in the end, failure is not a dead end, it's a detour. And sometimes the detour is exactly where you were meant to go all along. Indecision is one of the biggest roadblocks to success. We often believe that if we just think a little longer, analyze a little more, or wait for the perfect moment, we'll finally feel confident in our decision. But the reality is, overthinking creates hesitation, and hesitation kills momentum. The longer we delay a decision, the harder it becomes to make one at all. The truth is, most decisions don't require months of thinking, they require action. And the best way to move forward is by setting a deadline for making a decision. Giving yourself a clear time frame forces you to take control instead of letting fear and doubt control you. Think about the last time you struggled with a decision. Maybe you weighed the pros and cons over and over, replaying different scenarios in your head. But did more thinking actually make the decision easier? Or did it just create more anxiety? More often than not, overanalyzing leads to confusion, not clarity. When we don't set deadlines, we leave space for fear to creep in. We start asking, what if? What if I make the wrong choice? What if something better comes along? What if I fail? These questions don't lead to better decisions, they lead to inaction. Successful people don't waste time on endless decision-making. They understand that no decision will ever be perfect, and no amount of thinking will eliminate all risk. Instead of waiting for certainty, they commit to a deadline. When that deadline arrives, they make the best choice with the information they have and take action. Setting a decision deadline does two important things. First, it forces you to gather the necessary information within a set time. You don't waste time chasing every possible scenario. Instead, you focus on what truly matters. Second, it creates accountability. When you know you have a deadline, you're more likely to act instead of procrastinate. Think of the times when you had no choice but to decide quickly. Maybe a last-minute opportunity, a job offer, or an unexpected challenge. You didn't have weeks to overthink it, yet you still made a decision. And in most cases, you figured things out along the way. This proves that we are more capable of making decisions than we think. The problem isn't a lack of ability, it's a lack of urgency. One of the most effective strategies is to give yourself a strict time frame for decisions. If the decision is small, give yourself a few minutes. If it's bigger, maybe a few days or a week, but never let a decision sit indefinitely. When the deadline comes, make the choice and move forward. Of course, not every decision will be perfect. Some choices will lead to setbacks, but a wrong decision is almost always better than no decision. Why? Because action creates momentum. Even if the choice wasn't ideal, you learn from it, adjust, and keep going. But if you stay stuck in indecision, you learn nothing and remain exactly where you are. If you struggle with making decisions, start small. Set deadlines for everyday choices. What workout to do, what book to read, what project to start. As you build the habit, you'll find that bigger decisions become easier. The key is to trust yourself. You don't need all the answers, you just need to decide and take the next step. Because in the end, success doesn't come from making perfect decisions. It comes from making decisions and making them work. So stop waiting, set the deadline, decide, and move forward. We live in a world that craves instant results. We want success overnight, we want progress without struggle, and we want to reach our goals without setbacks. But that's not how real growth works. Every meaningful achievement, whether in business, relationships, or personal development, requires patience, persistence, and trust in the process. The reason so many people give up too soon is because they don't see immediate results. They expect progress to be linear, as if every effort should instantly produce a visible outcome. But success is rarely a straight path. It's messy, it's unpredictable, it's full of ups and downs, failures and lessons. And the only way to make it through is by trusting the process. Trusting the process means understanding that just because you don't see results right away doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Think about planting a seed. You water it, give it sunlight, and care for it every day, but for weeks you see nothing. If you didn't know better, you might think nothing was happening, but beneath the surface, the roots are growing, the foundation is being built, and soon enough that seed will break through the ground. The same is true for any goal in life. Just because you don't see immediate results doesn't mean the work isn't paying off. The mistake people make is quitting too early. They start something, a business, a new habit, a personal goal, but when they don't see instant success, they assume it's not working. What they don't realize is that most success stories involve a long period of unseen effort. The athletes who win championships, the entrepreneurs who build great companies, the artists who gain recognition, all of them spent years working when no one was watching, when there were no guarantees, when they had every reason to give up. Trusting the process also means embracing the struggles along the way. Too often people see obstacles as signs to stop, but obstacles aren't there to block you. They're there to strengthen you. Every setback teaches you something. Every failure builds resilience. The difficulties you face today are shaping you into the person who will succeed tomorrow. One of the biggest challenges in trusting the process is dealing with self-doubt. When things aren't happening as fast as you want, it's easy to question yourself. Am I even on the right path? Is this worth it? But the people who succeed are the ones who keep going despite the doubt. They understand that just because something feels uncertain doesn't mean it's the wrong path, it just means they're in the middle of the journey. So how do you stay committed when results aren't immediate? First, shift your focus from the outcome to the effort. Instead of obsessing over how far you have left to go, focus on what you can do today. Trust that if you keep showing up, the results will come. Second, remind yourself why you started. When challenges arise, reconnect with your purpose. Why does this goal matter to you? What will it mean when you achieve it? Keeping that vision in mind will help you push through the difficult moments. Lastly, celebrate small wins. Progress isn't always obvious, but it's happening. Recognizing small improvements will keep you motivated and remind you that every step forward is still progress. The reality is, success is not about instant gratification. It's about showing up day after day, even when you don't see results, even when you don't feel like it, even when doubt creeps in. Because in the end, the people who win are not the ones who had it easy, they're the ones who trusted the process and never gave up. We live in an age of constant distractions. Our phones buzz with notifications, emails flood our inboxes, and social media pulls our attention in 1,000 directions. Every minute there's something competing for our focus, making it harder than ever to concentrate on what truly matters. Yet the ability to focus is one of the most valuable skills anyone can develop. Those who master it achieve more in months than others do in years. The problem isn't that we lack time, it's that we waste too much of it on distractions. We tell ourselves we're busy, but in reality we're just occupied. We bounce from one task to another, never fully committing our attention. We start projects, but don't finish them. We set goals, but get sidetracked before we make real progress. And the worst part? We convince ourselves that this is just how life is, but it's not. The ability to focus is a choice, and the moment you decide to eliminate distractions, everything changes. The first step is recognizing that distractions are not just external, they are also internal. Yes, notifications, emails, and social media pull us away, but so do our own thoughts. Worrying about the future, overthinking past mistakes, and constantly switching between tasks create just as much chaos as any external distraction. To truly focus, we must train our minds to be present. One of the biggest myths about productivity is the idea of multitasking. We think that handling multiple things at once makes us more efficient, but in reality, it does the opposite. Studies show that multitasking reduces productivity and increases mistakes. Our brains work best when they focus on one task at a time. When we switch between tasks, we lose momentum and waste mental energy. The key to getting more done isn't doing more at once, it's doing fewer things with full attention. So how do we eliminate distractions and sharpen our focus? First, control your environment. Remove the things that pull you away from deep work. If your phone is a constant source of interruption, put it in another room while working. If social media eats up your time, use apps that block access during work hours. Create a space that encourages focus rather than distraction. Second, set clear priorities. Not everything on your to-do list is equally important. Instead of trying to tackle everything at once, identify the top 1 or 2 tasks that will have the biggest impact. Work on those first without interruption before moving on to less critical tasks. Third, use time blocks. Instead of working in a scattered way throughout the day, dedicate focused time blocks to specific tasks. For example, set a timer for 60 to 90 minutes, work with full focus, then take a short break before the next session. This method, known as deep work, allows you to enter a state of flow where your productivity skyrockets. Fourth, train your mind to resist distractions. Every time you check your phone or switch tasks unnecessarily, you're reinforcing the habit of distraction. Instead, practice discipline. When you feel the urge to check your phone or do something unrelated, pause, take a deep breath, and return to your work. Over time, this strengthens your ability to concentrate. Lastly, protect your mental energy. Focus isn't just about removing distractions, it's also about managing your energy. Get enough sleep, exercise, and eat well so that your brain functions at its best. A tired, overwhelmed mind is more prone to distractions, while a well-rested, energized mind can stay locked in on what matters. Eliminating distractions isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. It's about valuing your time and attention enough to use them wisely. Because in the end, success doesn't come from doing 100 things halfway, it comes from doing a few things exceptionally well.